Welcome to another edition of AV.
Lovely.
Those are words. Do you like that? I got all the way through the word addition before I started the word addition. I don't think you can do that. There's a lot of things I flub, and I'm like, people know what I'm saying. It's not that big of a deal. I don't have to articulate that well. I think I should be able to say addition.
The name of our podcast.
Yeah.
Right at the top.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. We didn't get as many new questions this week, so we might be able to catch up. It's very possible. We're going to try.
That does remind me. Okay, so at the end of May, last weekend of May, which I believe is like the 28th, 29th, that weekend.
Okay.
We are going on vacation. So either we do the podcast a day late, because I don't think I'll be back until Monday night. We're not going on a long vacation. We're just taking a long weekend.
Okay.
And we're driving a couple hours south, getting closer to Miami. I don't know why. But anyways, we're taking a short vacation. So the podcast might either be late or somebody else will be doing it instead of me.
That's plenty of notice. That's all right.
That is. That's all the notes you're going to get, because I've been forgetting about it for weeks now. I've known about it for a really long time. I just never remembered to talk about it. All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can contact, you can go to www.avrant.com, leave us a comment there, facebook.com/avrantpodcast, youtube.com/c/avrant, where all our videos are posted. What videos you say? Videos of your questions being answered. So if you would like to see the expressions on our lovely faces as we answer your questions, so that you can understand that some of the things that we say are meant in jest and some of them are not, you can see which ones.
Body language.
Our body language helps convey a level of sarcasm that I carry with me through every aspect of my life. Does not always go so well for me, but it is what it is. If you want to contact Rob directly, at rob@avrant.com. His Twitter is @FirstReflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My Twitter is @avrant_Tom. We have a producer. His name is Austin. Austin does all our videos and also helps put together the question list. You can reach him on Twitter @AustinTenPond. He has his own podcast, the We Watch Movies podcast. It is a podcast about football-themed glassware.
Glassware. Okay.
Glassware.
So
drinking
glasses,
drinking
mugs.
utensils, I guess. I mean, it's not. They do cover the plastic stuff too. I say glassware in the most ubiquitous sense.
General term.
As things you put liquid in,
Okay.
and whether or not it supports the team adequately, or is it a front to your team? Does it convey the spirit of your team, or does it in some way denigrate the legacy that your team has strived to instill in their fans? It's a pedantic.
You're just
it's a really
wordsmith
pedantic
today.
It's a pedantic podcast.
Rolling off the tongue.
Rolling off the tongue today. I'm telling you.
We watch movies.
We watch movies. What else could it be about?
That's very self-explanatory.
No one knows. No one could possibly mistake We Watch Movies for anything other than long-winded discussions about the efficacy of football team. Not soccer. Football. Not FUTBOL or BUL. I don't know how you people spell it. Actual football.
Gotcha.
All right, I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, all you have to do is support the podcast. There's a couple ways you can do that. One way is to go to www.avrant.com. Click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, where you can leave a PayPal donation, either through your PayPal account or by sticking in the little digits to your credit card number. PayPal keeps all that. We have no idea what they are. We don't want them even if they offer them to us. So we want to thank Christian and Michael for leaving us a PayPal donation. Those monies go into our coffers to help pay for our hosting fees. And Christian and Michael, we thank you very much.
Christian, Michael, thank you both very much for those donations.
And Christian is one of the people that shows up in our after parties, if you don't know about these. Monday after our podcast, which goes from 9 p.m. to god-awful, and then night 11, 10, 11:15, depending on how long I decide to stick it out before I get so fuzzy I can't remember how to do the closing credits.
That's Eastern time, by the way.
Eastern time
in North America.
Rob will send out a link on his Twitter.
We put it on our Facebook page and on my Twitter,
There we
@FirstReflect,
go.
as a reminder.
Yeah, and that will link you in so you can talk to us face to face. So right after the podcast ended, I got a notification from PayPal that we got a donation from Christian, and then Christian showed up in the after party. I'm like, "Are you the same Christian? Just gave us." He was like, "He was." Now he's been showing up for a while, so we talk to him almost every week. So it's great.
Nice.
But if you would like to have your question answered in a more timely fashion, you could do that. We will still answer it on the podcast, as Christian well knows, because he brings stuff up afterwards, and we bring it up on the podcast. We also want to thank David, who told Accessories for Less that AVRant was the reason for his Marantz purchase, and that he loves it. And Justin, not Bieber, ordered an Emotiva PT100 stereo preamp and told Emotiva via Twitter that it was thanks to our recommendation. That's just another way to support the podcast, so we thank you, David and Justin.
Yeah, David, Justin, thank you both very much, and congratulations on those purchases. Glad to hear you're enjoying them for David's and Justin. I'm sure you will enjoy that new Emotiva.
Yeah. Let's get into the news here. Disney movies on Ultra HD Blu-ray? ? There was some talk that it might, well, they were delaying it. Anyways, James Gunn is looking to make that happen. He's quote really working hard, end quote, to get Disney to release Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 on Ultra HD Blu-ray at the same time as the Blu-ray release. But this is Disney, so James Gunn, I don't know if you've got quite the gravitas to make that happen.
I mean, when you have a director who works directly for them pushing for it, that's a help. It's not going to hurt the cause. Yeah. So you go, James Gunn. If you get it done, great. Yes.
I'm so glad my kids aren't totally into like rebuying movies. Like I have no particular movie that my kids like love so much that I have to buy it every time it comes out. Mm-hmm. So thankfully I don't have to deal with that. But I would be really irritated if I had to start buying things in Ultra HD, especially considering it does nothing in my theater whatsoever. I mean, nothing.
Well, you do get the Blu-ray in the package, so it's a future-proof purchase.
Ugh. Samsung previously said they would open up their QLED naming trademark so that other brands could use it. Now they've partnered up with Hisense and TCL to form the QLED Alliance. Still no timeline for self-emissive quantum dot displays, so as of now, all QLEDs are just LCDs backlight.
That's right.
So, I mean...
With quantum dots as part of their backlight, that's where the Q comes from, is for quantum dot. But, they're marching ahead with the whole QLED thing. So
that's good, I guess. Yeah, make more sense if it was actually a total thing. It's like kind of calling something OLED before it's actually OLED, and then people get confused because they say they're like, well, it looks just like the other stuff. Well, it's going to be better when we actually do it 100%. Right now, we're like 50%.
If anything, this is a hint that OLED must be finding a fair amount of success. Because you don't do this type of rebranding of, it's the same technology they've been using for years. Quantum dot backlights on an LCD TV haven't really changed anything in that regard. So it's an indication. OLED must be eating a bit of their lunch over there.
Yeah. So Vizio demonstrated their 2017 LCD display lineup. They're calling them their X LED because X is way better than Q. Or O.
That's
O
right.
is like totally lame. That's like 1980s.
How was this not a thing already? Like, that's what shocked me, because I was like, well, of course it's XLED. Someone had to do it. Right?
It's going to be... Why isn't it lowercase I LED yet?
Oh, that's passe.
You think so?
They're also calling their whole suite of full array local dimming with HDR10 and Dolby Vision. That is now all bundled together under the moniker XHDR. So it's not just HDR.
Even better than Red or HDR. It's X. It's extreme HDR.
Yep.
Okay. So for these new TVs, the 2017 lineup, we've got no tablets. Because remember, for a while they were shipping some of their stuff with tablets because they thought people didn't have them, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so Chromecast is still built in, and you can still use your own mobile device to cast streaming services to displays. But now you get a regular remote, like everybody wanted in the first place, and you can browse the Chromecast services on your display itself. Seems like customers didn't like being forced to use a second screen to use the built-in streaming services. So, about the TV lineups in particular, lines in particular, we have the new E series, and it gets 12, count them, 12 zones of full array local dimming and HDR10. The new M series now has fewer local dimming zones than last year. It's 32 now instead of 64, which it was last year. So, by last year's model, but it gets wider color and more brightness. HDR10 and Dolby Vision both still on board there. And the new P series gets nothing. It's nothing. It's exactly the same.
It's
a remote. Does it get a remote?
It gets a remote, but it loses a tablet. It's very strange.
I feel like they came out ahead on that one. Does the price go down?
Nope.
I bet it doesn't.
So, I mean, if you were looking at a 2016 P series, snap it up. Because those are less expensive right now because the 2017s are coming out.
And you get a tablet.
And you get a tablet. And even more important is the next sentence.
Yeah. So, if you are looking at that 2016 model, all of the new software, including the on-screen Chromecast apps, those will be coming via firmware updates to your TVs. So there's literally no reason to buy a 2017 P series right now.
There really isn't.
Zero reasons.
Really isn't. Yeah, because
I kind of feel like you could get an aftermarket remote, right?
Oh yeah, you can get a Harmony or something, or if you already have one, that's the P series. I don't understand. The M series is like, all right, they futzed with it a little bit. They made it a little bit brighter. They supposedly gave it some wider color, but they decreased the number of local dimming zones. So it's a little bit of give and take on the M series. You can make a strong case for picking up a 2016 M series right now because the prices, again, on sale, very attractive. And the M series and the E series, for that matter, getting all the software updates on the 2016 models. So pretty good time to snap up a 2016 Vizio right now. To be honest.
We go. There's some comments from some of our listeners here. Steven, he previously asked us about potentially building a THX baffle wall in an attempt to improve his frequency response measurements, which I think, if I remember correctly, we said looked pretty good to begin with. So
pretty darn decent already.
Yeah, he was like, I want mine to be perfectly flat. All right,
quite happy with that.
Yeah, apply some smoothing and they'll be awesome. Since we've talked so much about the Denon AVR X3300W recently, and since I don't remember talking about that, but anyways, and since the Odyssey Multi-Q editor app just came out, he decided to give it a try. He didn't want to use the Odyssey before because he couldn't control the highest frequency at which it would be active. He doesn't want a bunch of treble EQ, and now the app lets him control that. So with some careful mic placement, he achieved the frequency response he had been hoping for, and he is, quote, over the moon, unquote, with his frequency measurements now and with the sound of the X3300W. So we're not looking at the measurements, I imagine.
Those are, I'm showing the before and after in the video version, and by as far as measurements go, that is an improvement. It is even flatter now. So
it is even flatter.
That is cool.
You should be happy with that.
Yeah.
Is that is it 3? No, it's more than, looking at the variance here, it's plus or minus 3, 4
maybe
dB. Yeah, it's
right
that line
there.
is basically 60 and the top line is 70, so that's 10 variance. So maybe 5 at the most. That's pretty good, dude.
It's very nice. Congratulations, and most of all, glad that you're happy with your purchase and
there you go.
The end result.
So Robert G took our advice and bought the Vizio P65C1. We recommended. The picture is amazing, he says, and plenty bright for his needs, and about to get a firmware update that's going to make it even better. So good on you, Robert.
It's an even better looking purchase right now. It's like, man, they did not make our recommendation look bad in the least.
We are super smart. That's the way I look at that. Look how smart we are. We predicted this.
Really didn't have any idea.
None.
Good fortune.
You give out enough recommendations, you're eventually going to hit one out of the park like this one. All right? This is your recommendation. I'm sure I didn't have anything to do with it. Michael suggests looking at fakespot.com to help suss out fake user reviews. And just so it's out there, its algorithm said that Mica speaker reviews are 90% reliable. So it, at least, doesn't think they're fake. But,
gave it a green symbol. Said you can trust these user reviews according to its algorithms.
Who can spot the fake spot? Who's watching the fake spot? Who's spotting the fake spot? Who watches the Watchmen?
That's right.
Do it. Joseph emailed us just recently, and his 9-year-old daughter was listening to our podcast, which is good to know that we are family friendly enough for a 9-year-old daughter. While he was listening a couple of weeks ago, and she likes to draw ponies, so she draw a brony Rob. This will be Rob's new. This got to be your new social media avatar.
I think so. I think I honestly, Joseph, please tell your daughter thank you from me. I love this. This pony is much fitter than I am in real life. So that's an improvement.
That pony is 65% head. That pony needs to eat a sandwich.
That is a better looking pony than I am in real life. But I'm impressed. I am impressed by the AVRant cutie mark there on my haunches.
I like it.
That is really well done. So I'm very pleased.
Great.
If ever there was a time for those of you listening to the audio-only version to come check out the beginning of the video version on our YouTube page, youtube.com/c/avrant, this is it. You
get to see my moray shirt. This is what I'm calling this. This shirt right now is going to mess with your displays. I'm going to be a shimmering. I'm going to look like an angel. Just come down from heaven. With a really bad haircut. My hair is just crazy.
I was never enough of a brony to create my own OC. Now it has been done for me.
It has been done for me.
I appreciate that.
So are these? I want to understand everybody involved in this project here. I'm not in any way being critical. Are those glasses over the eye there?
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Is that glasses and then a horn? Is that a horn?
No, that's an ear and then some headphones there. You got some headphones.
Headphones.
Yeah.
I got it. Just got it. Okay. Love it. Love it even more now that it's got headphones on.
That's right.
Great. Thank you. Good job. I'm not being insulting. Believe me, I'm not. I know how these things go. 9, that's a great picture for any age. I can't draw a picture that good. People laugh at my...
It is scary to see anything that I attempt to draw. That is not in my skill set.
Yes. My stick figures don't look like stick figures. My stick figures look like someone shot them apart in little pieces and they go everywhere. It's really sad. Let's get into the questions here, because maybe for once we can get done before 11 p.m. Will, this comes from Facebook. Will has a Denon AVR X4200W. He has 7 listener-level speakers already, plus 4 overhead Atmos speakers. Will figured he'd run a 5.2.4 setup.
Right, so just want to clarify that is the X4200.
Yes.
So it has 7 amplifiers built in, but it can process 9 speakers maximum. So for the folks who are like, he has 7 listener-level speakers and 4 overhead, why isn't he doing 7.2.4? It's because the X4200 tops out at 9 speaker processing. So just to make that clear.
Yeah. So he has an ADCOM 2-channel amp and an ADCOM speaker selector. He was thinking he might connect the surround channels pre-outs from this ADCOM amp and then connect the ADCOM amp to his ADCOM speaker selection. This is saying ADCOM too many times in one sentence. It's now not sounding like the right word anymore. Anyways, and thus have this 2-channel amp connect to both his surround speakers, polk-on walls, and his surround back speakers, energy bookshelves. He realizes that the surrounds and the surround backs would be getting the same signal, but with a speaker selector in place, he'd choose to power either or both when he wants to fill in his long room with sound. Will this work? Did they have volume control on the speaker selector switch?
I don't know, because I don't know what the model of the ADCOM speaker selector is. There's a few things going on here that make me trepidatious about saying.
I don't know that I would ever want to run both to begin with, and I don't really even see the reason of running the surround backs with the surround information in it. I don't see the point of that.
Yeah, it'd be 2 speakers on each side playing the same information, but one would be to the side of you and one would be behind you.
Behind, right. And it's like not kind of...
But they're playing in mono.
Right. I don't... Okay. First of all, can you do this? I'm sure... literally, physically, yes, this can be done. You could do it with the equipment you have.
Well, that's one other thing, though, because... as flexible as the Denons are in allowing you to say which pre-outs you want to use, because remember, he's trying to run 9 channels, all right?
Yeah.
He's trying to run 9 channels through 11 speakers. But as flexible as the Denons are, I don't believe one of the options is send the surround channel information to my external amp while powering all the other speakers internally. You can say... send my front left-right speakers to the pre-outs and power everything else. You can say power one of the pair of overhead speakers and then power everything else internally. But I don't believe that power my surrounds with the external amp and power everything else internally is one of the options. There's a chance I'm wrong about that, but I think that's the case, in which case you'd need one more external 2-channel amp to power something else in this setup.
Right. Right.
You definitely can connect an external amp to the surround pre-outs.
Right.
It's just that now you're asking your left, center, right, and your 4 overhead speakers to all be powered internally, and I don't believe there's a way to set up.
He needs another 2-channel amp, basically. So he could take the surround speakers, sends it to the selector switch, from selector switch to the 2 individual amps, which are going to power the 4 speakers. That's what you're saying.
Well, no, I mean, what I'm saying is he could connect the surround pre-outs to his Adcom amp like he wants to.
Yeah.
But then in order to have 5.2.4, he would need another 2-channel external amp to power either his front, left, right, or one of the pair of overhead speakers. As far as I'm aware, that's the setup that you would need. The other alternative would be to power the surround channels internally. So you would just
I see what you're saying.
Wire the surrounds and the surround backs, in this case in series or in parallel or something, or connect the binding post. I don't know if you can connect the binding post outputs to the Adcom speaker selector switch, but I'm saying you'd either need to send the surround channels from the Denon's binding posts, or you'll need another 2-channel amp.
Right.
To make this work,
because you can't send. I see what you're saying. You can't run the 3 speakers up front from the Denon and the 4 speakers overhead from the Denon and use amps to power the surround backs.
Yeah. You have to
surround
power
speakers. You have to
power
5
one pair
speakers
externally, but you can tell it to power the front, left, right externally, or you can tell it to power one of the pair of overhead speakers externally, but I don't believe you can tell it to power the surrounds externally while powering everything else internally. I don't think that's one of the options. So, that complicates things on that end. And then on top of that, your surrounds are polks, your surround backs are energies. They're probably not so different in efficiency that it would be a big deal, but there's some potential issue with level matching there, especially since we don't know the distances involved, right? Yeah. So one of them might be noticeably louder than the other. And then there's the whole thing of, do you really want to power surrounds and surround back as a mono pair anyway?
That's what it comes down to for me. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down for me, it's like, can this be done? Well, it can be.
Yeah,
there's a way
to make this happen.
Yeah. The end result, though, is that you're going to end, I believe, you're going to end up doing all this work and maybe spending all this money if you need all these amps that we're talking about here to perhaps give you a marginal benefit at best and more likely a detriment to your surround sound experience. Yes, I know you have speakers back there and you would very much like to use them. Mm-hmm. I would recommend buying a new receiver.
Or you could switch to a 7.2.2 setup.
Yeah, that's still, he still wants to use those 2 speakers above, though. That's the whole point. Right?
Yeah. I mean, he'd rather have 4 Atmos speakers above, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
I see where he's going with this.
Oh, yeah,
and we've all been here before. We're like, but dude, I have speakers right there. They're not doing anything. I know they're not doing anything. Do you think it doesn't kill me every time I'm playing my stupid Xbox One and I know it's putting out uncompressed PCM 5.1 because I have to, because if I don't, then if I put out 7.1 uncompressed PCM, the surround speakers information goes into the surround back channels and sounds weird coming out from behind you. And that's exactly what you're asking. Can this work? Yeah, it can work. But now your surround speaker information is coming out behind you and it sounds weird. Now, even if it's coming out next to you and it's a little bit louder, then at best you're just not going to notice it back there. It's not going to make it more surroundy if that's what we're going for here. It's just not.
Yeah, so. I don't think I would go to all this trouble.
Yeah.
That's my. I mean, if you want to do it, I'm like, that's totally fine. If it's a hobby and an exercise, we're kind of on board with that. But if I was giving a recommendation, I would say I don't think this is worth the hassle of going through all these potential issues that you're facing. So,
and if you did it all and you came back to us and said, I think it sounds totally better, I'd be like, great. Yeah. We're wrong. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that most of the time we would be right. But maybe it is, there's a non-zero chance that in your case we might be wrong. The smart money is on, it's like, are you going to catch that inside straight flush draw on the river?
Right.
Maybe, but the smart money's on no. Fold. Carl, I just told the dude to fold your home theater. Fold it. I'm sorry, I give up. Carl says, first of all, Dread in 3D? Does the 3D enhance the narrative in the way that with that film, like it does with Life of Pi, Avatar, or Doctor Strange? First of all, I haven't seen Life of Pi. I did see Avatar, or Doctor Strange in 3D. So I did see Avatar in 3D. It was a long time ago. I really thought that the scenes where like people were doing the slow-mo drug thing were going to be like super cool in 3D. They were kind of okay in 3D, but it was more noticeable like when there was almost the parallax stuff where, Dread's in front, somebody else is behind and stuff like that. Which is kind of funny because when you're filming something in 2D, the person, they focus on one person, they focus on the other person. So in 3D, it shouldn't be that way. Everybody should be in focus, right? Right?
Yeah, it's a stylistic choice. Yeah, it's something they struggle with, filmmakers.
So, did it enhance the narrative? I didn't think so, but
I thought it did. I thought it
was okay.
At points, the visuals were enhanced by the 3D effect in a way that you wouldn't get the same effect in flat 2D. So I felt it was an enhancement.
It was not. Oh God, I just can't stop. Okay, forget it. Listen to Rob, because Rob can be more positive than I can be. So Carl says he went ahead and ordered the JVC 3D glasses and emitter. Dr. Strange convinced him, as he felt the 2D presentation was almost like a part of that world was missing when compared to what he's seen at his IMAX laser 3D theater. Great. I totally want to buy Doctor Strange anyways because I love that movie. But even though the story is pretty simplified compared to some of the other Marvel movies that are out there, and it definitely could have been a little bit deeper, but I felt like they kept it a little light, and that was okay, considering that story could have gone way, Batman v Superman, Dawn of crap, which is what that was. But and they managed to keep it light, so I was okay with it. But I might buy that and try it again with the 3D. 3D glasses are sitting right there. This projector hasn't gone back yet, but it most likely will. Most likely. So he asks also, Joe Kane was on Home Theater Geeks 2 weeks ago, and they talked about using a bias light with a projector screen. Mm-hmm. What do we think of this proposal with a light wrapped all around the projection screen? Makes sense and enhance the viewing experience. So for those who don't know,
thoughts on this for sure.
Yeah, the bias light, the idea here is that there's a light that, like behind your TV. You ever seen those TV that kind of glow? The Ideal Loom. Is that what it was called? Ideal Loom? Is that right? Ideal Glow?
Well, Ideal Loom is a company that sells backlights, bias lights that you can add. That's Ideal Loom. I think it was Philips Ambilight.
Ambilight
was the ones who built it in.
So the idea here is that there's a light behind there so that there's not this dramatic. You're in this pitch black room, and then there's this really bright screen, and it gives sort of a contrast there, so that the contrast there isn't so dramatic between scenes to scenes when you go from dark to light. And you've seen this happen before, I know you have, in movies where you're in a real dark scene, all of a sudden, boom, it's like in the desert someplace. You're like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I'm blind now.
It enhances your perception of black levels. Because it, as the name implies, it biases your eye. It stops your pupil from opening all the way up because there is some ambient light in the room, but that ambient light is behind the screen, so it's not washing out the screen, hopefully.
Theoretically.
It's just making sure that your pupil doesn't open all the way up, so that way your perception of the black levels is enhanced. Blacks look blacker because you have something to contrast them against in this light that's coming from behind the screen.
I don't hate this idea for projection screens, to be honest with you. I don't hate it.
And there are some companies that sell exactly. Elite has an option for this. Illunavision has an option for this.
A lot of times projection screens, especially since, they pick up any light that's going on in the room whatsoever.
Right.
They can have a very grayish look rather than a black look. I feel like with HDR, we're getting away from needing stuff like this. That well,
it's funny because Joe Kane was saying that HDR with projectors is increasing the need for a bias light,
so that your eyes don't close all the way when we go to the dark. Yeah,
that's right.
I don't know about that. I don't know, but I'm not going to argue with Joe Kane. I'm not dumb. I mean, I'm not dumb enough to think that I know something more than Joe Kane does. But I kind of feel like this is not a terrible idea for projection screens. It will help that darkness seem a little bit darker. Then again, the whole idea of having a projector is that you have a completely blacked out room. You get the movie like the movie experience, and that movie experience is meant to be in a really dark room.
Right.
So for me, it'd be one of these try it, see if you like it things, and be prepared to return it.
So my feeling on this is that, and Joe Kane touched upon this, but I don't think he said it really, really clearly and explicitly, which is that to make this work in a projection setup, you need to really carefully construct your room and think about it. Because what you really want to avoid is, let's say you have light-colored walls and ceiling, right? White walls and ceiling, or just light-colored, reflective, glossy paint, whatever it is. So this light is coming from behind the screen, but it is reflecting off of these other surfaces in your room, getting back onto the front of the screen via reflections and washing out your image. You don't want that. So to make a bias light with a projection screen work, you really need a blacked-out room. Because you have to make sure that that bias light that's coming from behind the screen is not going to end up back on the front of the screen via reflections to wash out your image. So you need a really non-reflective room. Now, of course, we're talking about Joe Kane, so he already had a non-reflective room. All right, he was already had a bat cave, so that's not a consideration. It's like, of course, that's what you already had. So now we can add a bias light. It's not going to reflect around the room and get back onto the screen. But for most people, I would say this could end up doing more harm than good, because it's like turning on a lamp that you've positioned behind your screen, right?
Yeah.
If you have reflective walls and ceiling, that's going to end up washing out your image. So you really need a blacked out room. More than that, you got to make sure that that light is only shooting backwards and outwards from the screen frame, because no screen is 100% opaque.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking too. I was like,
so
you know what?
Yeah,
you gotta make sure it's firing out and not
Yeah.
it's not just glowing behind your screen, because then it's gonna illuminate through like the sides of the screen and
especially
through
what if you have
behind.
acoustically transparent, right? You don't want to see the
yeah.
bias light coming through the screen from behind it, backlighting it. So again, your entire front wall needs to be matte black to make sure that the light that's shining backwards isn't going to reflect off the front wall and then come through the screen from the back. So I agree. I actually do agree. I think this is a good idea for enhancing your perception of the black levels. It enhances your perception of the contrast of the image, as long as everything else about the room is set up to maximize that experience and not wash out your image any further. Otherwise, more harm than good.
Yeah. Justin has a Sendacoustic Sierra 2 speakers for his left, center, and right speaker. He ran Odyssey Multi-Q XT32 on his Denon X4200W. Seems to be a theme today. And was alarmed to see how much it boosted the output in the high treble. I guess we're seeing the image here of that.
That's right.
There's a bunch of boost. The 10 dB looks like. Ooh, scary.
Pretty close.
So if he turns Odyssey off, the Sierra 2s do sound a bit dull. Is this normal with the Sierra 2s?
It can be.
I don't know if it's normal with the Sierra 2s, but I bet it'd be normal in your room. Well,
I think in this instance, the Sierra 2s themselves might have something to do with this.
Yeah? You're the Sierra 2 guy, so tell us.
I think I'm guessing at this because this is the likely culprit for Justin. But is there any chance you have those Sierra 2s positioned above or below ear level? Because the Sierra 2s have very narrow vertical dispersion. If you do not have the tweeters of those Sierra 2s at the same height as your ears when you're sitting down, or angled so that you have a direct line, a pretty direct line, going right from those tweeter to your ears, they have a narrow vertical dispersion. They will be rolled off, and they will measure as being rolled off, and you will end up with a result like this. I highly suspect that's what's going on. And of course, it's normal to have, especially your center speaker, above or below your screen, say. Yeah. It's extremely important in the case of the Sierra 2 that you have that tilted to aim right at your face. You basically only have about plus or minus 10 degrees vertically, which is a pretty narrow little wedge that you were trying to fit yourself into. So that's what I suspect. More than that, these measurements are based on the microphone. Now, he says he turns Odyssey off and they sound a bit dull. So his ears are confirming what the microphone is showing here. But we have to remember, normally that microphone, when you're measuring, if you're following the recommendations, it's pointed straight up. It is omnidirectional. But again, if the speaker is below the ear and trying to fire upward, you can get a hair of interference, but at these very high frequencies, that's enough, just from the body of the microphone or whatever stand you have the microphone sitting on. Mm-hmm. So this is an instance where you got to make sure that the microphone has a very clear line of sight to the tweeter of the Sierra 2. These are a slightly picky speaker when it comes to vertical dispersion. I think that's what's going on here. It's the likely culprit.
I've seen this kind of adjustment often. Yeah, this is not... When I looked at that, I was like, yeah, I've seen that before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is not an uncommon measurement or a correction file. So, it didn't really bother me that much to see it.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. But if you see the on-axis frequency response measurement of a Sierra 2 speaker just playing a normal sweep, it's very, very flat and extended up into the highs. So you wouldn't typically expect Odyssey to be attempting this much boost in the treble, but if it's off-axis vertically, then I would expect exactly this. So.
Okay. Well, maybe
Hopefully
that's it. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Wesley has, apparently, because everybody does today, a Denon AVR X4200W AV receiver. He had it connected to the internet using a Cat 6 cable out of nowhere. It stopped being able to connect to the internet, and Denon customer service can only guess that something must have gone wrong with the unit's Ethernet adapter. If he looks at the network information in the receiver's menu, it shows the MAC address and the IP address, etc. But when he runs a connection test, it says there's no internet connection. He has a Blu-ray player in the same setup, also hardwired. It is connecting to the internet just fine. He tried taking the Cat 6 cable from the Blu-ray player and plugging that into the Denon, and just in case it was a wire issue. But the Denon still says it has no internet. So, is a malfunctioning Ethernet adapter something we've heard of before? Is there anything you do other than send it to a Denon repair facility where they will probably not fix it because they are horrible people? There will be a cost involved in that, and he'd rather avoid it if possible.
Fair enough.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Ethernet adapter, dude. You've done all of the. I mean, Denon already said it, but you've done all the testing I would have done. I would have changed the cables. I would have tested it with something that I've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, if the Ethernet cable you have plugged into your Blu-ray player and is working, your Blu-ray player is connected into the internet, and then you take that very same cable, you unplug it from the Blu-ray player and plug it into the Denon, and the Denon says, "I don't see any internet." It's the Ethernet adapter in the Denon. That's
the only thing I would do is I would do a factory reset. I would do a factory reset just to see if maybe something got scrambled in there. I know it's not going to be that case, but I would do it anyways.
Well,
I mean,
since that's free, I mean, why not?
Yeah,
right?
if you're going to send it back anyways, the last thing I'd do before I sent it back would be to do that. And the idea here is just, I don't know, prayer, I guess.
Well, I mean, the only other idea I have is he did talk at some length with Denon's customer service, so I don't know if they already tried this. They probably suggested. I don't know if Wesley has a Wi-Fi set up in his house. Yeah. It sounds like he's hardwired everything here, but maybe he already has Wi-Fi. If you do, the X4200W does have Wi-Fi built in, comes with a pair of antennae.
Yeah. I would try that too.
So I would definitely attempt to. I mean, maybe they already did, right? Customer service. So I'm not sure, but on the off chance you didn't, and you do have a Wi-Fi network set up, I would certainly attempt to use the Wi-Fi connection instead. Because if that works, it doesn't mean that your Ethernet card inside the Denon isn't still broken. It probably still is, but at least that's a workaround for the time being to avoid, having the shipping cost of having to send it in, which it does suck. I mean, it's a big, heavy receiver,
right?
So it's a not insignificant cost to ship. It's
probably $50-$60 to ship the thing. I have no idea.
We've heard as much as 80, right?
Yeah.
So that's significant for that. And have we heard of malfunctioning Ethernet cards? Yes, unfortunately, that's a pretty common thing.
Every bit of that of a receiver can malfunction and break. I mean, we've heard video cards, we've heard video, the processors, we've heard,
But I mean, Ethernet adapters in computers and that too, it's a fairly common thing because they generate quite a bit of heat. Yeah. Eventually, the heat breaks them down. It's a not uncommon thing at all. Unfortunately, it really sucks. It's a pretty simple repair, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
The repair itself.
Wi-Fi, I think that'd be the way to go. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you really streaming to this thing? Maybe he's streaming a bunch of stuff, in which case you should send it in. But if it really you're like me and you only use it for updates every however many months, like.
But I mean, the streaming services that are built into it are all audio. So Wi-Fi is fine for audio. There's plenty of bandwidth for audio. You're not streaming any video services directly into the Denon. So
Right.
yeah, that's the best workaround we can think of. But otherwise, I mean, it really sounds like it's a busted Ethernet adapter, and those are pretty common.
You can think of it this way. I mean, there's a non-zero chance you're going to send it in, and the repair facility is going to mess around and not fix it, and then yes, you'll be aggravated. But in the end, then it'll send you a brand new receiver that is like the next year's model. It's happened.
I mean, if the repair is your only path forward, the best case scenario is that there is a repair, an official repair place that Denon works with that's within your own driving distance or something. At least you could avoid the massive, FedEx charge that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I'm afraid it sounds like a broken Ethernet card.
It does. Dave has heard us recommend the Denon AVR X3300W quite a few times. Is it possible to connect a 5.1.4 Atmos setup to the Denon X3300W? Can you just add a 2-channel amp to make that happen? So I looked this up. It is a 7-channel receiver with 7 amps built in. And as far as I can tell, I did not see a way to do 2 additional channels. It can't process 9, I don't think.
It
Can it?
cannot. It can process 7. It can power 7. So 7.2 or 5.2.2. Those are the maximum setups for the X3300W. What you're thinking of would be a model like what we've been talking about with some previous listeners, the X4200W from 2015. That one had 7 amplifiers built in, but the ability to process 9 speakers. So the X4200W was an example of one where you could add an external 2-channel amp and turn that into 5.2.4. But the 3300W, no. It tops out at 7, and that's the end of the story.
Yep. That's what I thought. Yay me. Look at me doing research. It's almost like I did some research for this podcast before it started. It's crazy talk around here. Matthew has a large light-controlled multi-purpose room in his basement. He's been using a Panasonic AX200 projector for many years. Yes, it's a 720p projector, but it's been working well. And it bit the dust recently, so it's time for something new. Hey, dude, that you and I have a lot in common. I'd be totally rocking 720p if that's what I had bought. I would go and go and go until that thing was dead.
I remember that AX200. That was a really popular and very nice projector in its day. So
he actually because apparently I have no idea what this is going, but he wants a 100-inch flat panel. Mm-hmm. He'd be willing to pay as much as $10,000. So if he's going to get it, it won't be big, and he don't mind paying for it. But he says nothing of that size and that price seems to exist. So do we know what the cheapest 100-inch flat panel goes for these days? I don't think anybody makes 100-inch flat panels.
Oh, they do.
Who makes it?
Sony has one in their Z9D series. There's a 100-inch. It's $60,000.
Oh, well, that's what I said. I meant nobody makes a reasonably priced 100-inch panel these days.
That's still like half the price of what it used to be.
It's not reasonable. Not for 100 inches.
No. Hisense, it's not a flat panel. It's actually an ultra short throw projector, but they sort of sell it to you as a unit. So
with
you
the
have
screen
this,
and everything?
Yeah, it's like this 100-inch screen with an ultra short throw projector that's like physically already in place. It's all like one unit. So it's almost like an old rear projection TV, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
That's what it's the most like. That one is there's the non-HDR version, which is $13,000. So it's getting kind of close, but it's not a flat panel. Just to make that clear. And then they have the HDR version, which is over $20,000, but it's not even available yet. That's kind of about it for what you could go out and buy right now in the 100-inch size. That's got all the modern stuff. So,
yeah.
Not really a viable
There's
option.
not a huge demand for... I don't think there's a huge demand for 85-inch ones, but those exist.
Those are more available for sure.
Yeah, which is what he's asking about next. He says he's considering some of the 80 or 85-inch flat panels out there. There's He's come across the Vizio M and E series 80-inch models, the LG's 86-inch LCD, and Sony's 85-inch X85 850D. Do we have any thoughts on these models, good or bad? And is there anything else worth considering? Is there a P series model out there that you can get right now?
Because 75 inches as big as those go.
That's
so
too bad. That would be your boy right there.
A fair amount smaller, but there's the company that attempted to buy Vizio, and somehow that deal fell through, but Leico is out there.
Yeah.
And they are selling their UMax 85, which, as the name implies, is an 85-inch screen. And what is that, $5,400, $5,500 right now?
Saving money left and right, dude. Saving money.
Honestly, I mean, it's full array $5,500 for the UMax 85 from Leico. Full array local dimming with, it's like 148 zones. So
that's
pretty
decent.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, way more than that. 448 zones.
That's much better.
That's awesome.
That gets the AVRant seal of approval there.
Full array local dimming, HDR10 and Dolby Vision. So that's impressive. And yeah, over on AVS Forum, the people who've actually received one, by and large, quite happy with it. There have been a few things where it was like forgetting some settings. It's not the end of the world. You can put the settings back, but apparently those are being addressed in firmware updates. But that's kind of the front runner, I would say, because it's less expensive than all these other options, even Vizio's.
Yeah.
And it has a really nice feature set. So, yeah, I take a long look at that.
I will say that if it were me purchasing, I know it's like almost half of what you're wanting to spend. But there's a big part of me that thinks I would wait until I saw at least 2 professional reviews out there, more so than the stuff that you just user reviews on AVS or wherever. I would want to see.
They're pretty thorough, though.
Well, I'm not saying they're not. Yeah. I want to see a couple of professional reviews for CNET, Audioholics, Audio Gurus, one of those, something before I would purchase. I think you'll probably be safe and fine. These guys are trying real hard right now to break into this market and make a name for themselves. Yeah. I believe they're going to be very responsive right now, and they're going to be very interested in making customers happy at this moment.
Yeah.
So
at
you're probably
this size,
fine.
Though, I would really want full array backlighting, because the 85-inch Sony X850D edge lit.
No,
the LG 86-inch
big black hole in the middle of it.
Yeah, the LG 86-inch edge lit and an IPS panel. So you want to talk about some bad black levels? That's some bad black levels right there. By today's standards, I'm talking. So Vizio's M and E series, at least they are full array local dimming, but way fewer zones than the Leico and a smaller screen size and more expensive. So that Leico's kind of winning.
Yeah. So he says he isn't set in stone on the flat. He stopped listening, by the way. He's already ordering it right now. I don't know why. I don't even know why we're answering this question. But he says he's not set in stone on the flat panel. A projector is still an option, but for a projector, he'd like to spend less than $5,000. You spend less than $5,000, almost less than $5,000 on Leico, but whatever. The Epson 5040UB looks like a potential option. Are there any other projectors out there he should be considering? Man, there's a whole bunch for under $5,000. Like a bunch.
Yeah, but if you want HDR, then that list shrinks considerably.
So is there anything from Panasonic or...
Not really. No, JVC.
Okay.
Good old JVC. Because they do have their $4,000. Right now, the current model is the X570, which would be $4,000. HDR10, nice and bright, best black levels out there, pretty much bar none. The black levels are even superior to the Epsons. So yeah, I mean, the Epson undercuts it in price. $2,700 for the Epson 5040UB. Pretty tough to beat for a Wobble K HDR10 compatible projector.
Are they both limited. Wobble K?
It is Wobble K. The JVC is Wobble K2, or they call it eShift. But yeah, that Epson, the one warning is that it can only accept up to 4K 30. It can't accept a 60 frames per second signal.
I bet that's going to be a deal breaker for this guy. Seriously, he's willing to spend $10,000. He's going to go for the JVC.
The JVCs, it can take 4K 60. It can play video games nicely now on the X570. They lowered the latency. So yeah, that's a strong contender. Because yeah, that plus a 100-inch screen, totally doable.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let us know what you go with, dude. I'd be very curious to see what you decide with. And if you get the Leico, please. You don't have to write a review, but if you did, we would put it on we would talk about the podcast and put it on the website.
That is a tough call between, an 85-inch Eco flat panel, because I mean that you can have the lights on. You can totally have the lights on, or if you have windows, I don't know the exact setup, but if you do, you can have some light coming in. And you know what? You move your seat closer. Still a pretty cinematic experience with an 85-inch screen.
Compared to 100, I mean, I know 100 is quite a bit bigger, but
Oh, it is.
yeah, it's not that much bigger.
But if ambient light is in the room, then it's like, man, you're not going to get the benefit of those JVC black levels if
Yeah.
you have any ambient light, because they get washed out. So that's a tricky call. I would base it upon my ambient light conditions for sure, because the price difference isn't that huge at this point. Once you know include buying a screen along with that projector.
I imagine he's been using a screen this whole time.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Would think
Okay,
he already
so
have one.
pretty big price difference, but yeah.
$1,500. It's like a lot.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Except he's not been a first-time caller. He's called us many times. We have a list of Jonathan topics that if we ever run out of things to say on this podcast, at the very bottom, there's all these things that
It's
Jonathan
sitting there for over a year now at this point, hasn't it?
Well over a year. Well over a year. Yes.
Sorry, Jonathan.
So, hey, thank you for giving us some backup topics. But, well, you know, we talked about your stuff anyways. Jonathan was reading one account of the recent Expona Audio Expo. He was struck by one particular line, which read, quote, "On Dave Brubrecht's classic Take 5, there's a closing drum shot that reverberates through the studio. On the Contour 60s," those are the speakers he's listening to, I imagine.
Yep.
"That wallop nearly knocked me out of my chair with the decay hanging in the air as the song ended." So, that was end quote, by the way. Despite the obvious hyperbole, what would account for this description? Bad acoustic, tinnitus in the reviewer's ears, some sort of ESP listening mode, or the recording actually containing this long delay, and therefore any competent speaker will reproduce it?
Yes, I seriously doubt he was literally knocked out of his chair, so that is hyperbole.
He did say nearly knocked me out of my chair.
Okay.
He did say literally.
Even that, I think, is an exaggeration.
I would think so. Okay, so Expona, along with many other high-end audio shows, tend to happen at hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk from room to room. They will sometimes have larger rooms, like auditoriums, set up for people like Wolf, who have more money than God, and they set up their monster projector in their own. They'll have the projector has its own box that goes in that, because it has to have its own AC unit that's attached to it, and they'll put like 50 chairs in this auditorium, project a 300-inch screen up there and whatever. It's all very with like whatever speaker system that they can get in there that's massive and huge, and they turn it up way too loud to hurt your ears. So you go from room to room, generally speaking, very small, normal. Maybe you get one bed in there, maybe two small beds in there, and then they take all the furniture out and they set up far too big speakers with a couple of chairs, and you sit there and you listen. And it's always too loud, and it's always, it's very rarely a very pleasant listening experience. But you get an idea of what these speakers sound like. And oftentimes these speakers are very, very large. They're meant for, two-channel listening in rooms that are much bigger and dedicated, and for people who have more money than hearing ability, apparently. So this is the environment in which you're set. Now, if you are whoever this reviewer person is, they're probably wearing a name tag. They shoot everybody else out of the room, set up a chair for him or her wherever they wanted it to be, and then they sat there and did the listening test with whatever they wanted to listen to, and then waited on them hand and foot in hopes that they would say something good about their speakers on their website, because that can make or break their business. I've seen it happen. I mean, that's literally exactly what happened with a stereophile guy who walked into a room I was in. Like, we all got pushed to the back of the room. We were allowed to stay, but they were like, "You want to sit here? Would you like to sit here? Where would you like to sit? Would you like something to eat? We have something to drink. Would you like something to drink? Just some coffee? We want beer? We want a martini? Something?" It was very sycophantic, is what I would call that one. So anyways, what would describe this? My first reaction to this is that room is ringing like a bell. And you're getting knocked out of your chair because you're sitting in a mode that's really quite bad, or maybe the speakers are just super not linear.
It's a drum shot, so I mean that's high frequency stuff that's ringing.
Yeah. Still,
I mean higher than where you would have a room mode. I mean,
yeah.
he says it reverberates through the studio, as he's referring to the recording studio, and that very well could be the case. Therefore, the recording has a reverberant sound.
But it says the decay was hanging in the air as the song ended. So the song is over, and he's still hearing the ringing.
Right.
So
yeah, something in the room is ringing.
Something in the room is ringing. It might be his ears. It might be his brain. It might be that he's just trying. He's out of things to say, and this is what came out.
It could be crappy speakers too, because speakers can ring. You know, the cabinets themselves can ring. The drivers can continue to move when they should have stopped.
All the
That's
fake
not impossible
pictures,
either.
all the Thomas Kincaid fake pictures on the wall are ringing as they're bouncing back and forth.
I believe the Contour 60. I believe those are Dyne Audios. So I'm not going to blame the speakers out of hand on that one, because Dyne Audio makes quality speakers. So
I'm not saying that. I said that
I doubt it's
the pictures were bouncing on the wall.
No, I was saying it could be crappy speakers. I don't think that's the case here, based on Dyne Audio's pedigree. But if this were taken at face value, then if I assume he's heard this recording before and he's like, there should be a reverberation, but this was particularly reverberant. Well, okay, it's the room then.
Yeah, it's the room. It's your head. Honestly, just running out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. These guys.
This isn't even why would this be a positive?
That doesn't sound like a positive to me, but these people are like, oh, wow, it's great.
Actually, yeah, if you say, it nearly knocked me out of the chair, the decay was hanging in the air as the song ended, it shouldn't have done that. This was a bad demo. Like, those could
I
be
ran
the
screaming
words.
from the room. Covering my ears saying, la, 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 you can't make me listen anymore. La, la, la.
Yeah.
Bobby wrote this previously, asking about going with either a Denon or Pioneer receiver. He's going with a Denon, as we suggested. I'm guessing it's either going to be an X4200W or X3300W, because it's apparently it's all we talk about in this podcast anymore. What happened to the good old days of the X4000?
Well, it's the X4300H now, so it's all right. Same,
Okay, so he also asked about potentially using headphones along with the bass shakers. He'd like to know if we have any suggestions for a headphone amplifier that can power multiple pairs of headphones at the same time. Crap, I have one in the other room. And I actually have two. So one of them is the Emotiva Stealth one, the DC one.
Now that can power two pairs of headphones.
That's right. Well,
I don't know if he wants. Well, he says multiple. I don't know how many multiple means. Two is multiple, but he might be looking to do three or four. I don't know.
You talk about what you're going to talk about. I'm going to move my microphone here. I'm going to go actually grab it because it's just in the other room. I mean, it's literally just in the other room.
So yeah, we did think of the Emotiva, the Stealth DC one that can power two sets of headphones. If that's enough, that would be a great way to go because it's a very nice sounding headphone amplifier. But in general, what I would do here if I'm trying to power, say, 3, 4, as many as 16 pairs of headphones, all from the same source, I'm looking at Pro Gear because this is a pretty common thing. This is, a multi-headphone amplifier that you'd use, say, in a recording studio, in a radio station, for, people who do podcasts with many people all in the same room. They will have something that can use multiple headphones at the same time. So I would head to a place like Sweetwater, where they sell these things. You're looking for a multi-headphone amp or a distribution headphone amp. And actually, there's no need to go really expensive with something like this. You need something fairly simple that can just accept a stereo line level signal. And then in this case, this can power 4 headphones. So this is from a company called AVRant. It's their Head Amp 4. As it implies, 4 headphones can be attached to that, each of them with independent volume, just simple little knobs on the front of the unit. It's a nice small unit, $65 will totally get the job done. So I'd recommend something like that, but if you head over to Sweetwater, you can check out their entire selection of headphone distribution amps. Tom is back. What do you got for us?
I got the Samsung QH4.
Oh, okay.
Right there. Samsung QH4. It's got 4 individual volume knobs, 1 master knob, mono button, and mute button.
Okay.
It's actually got dual inputs, left and right back here, a mono one, an aux in and an aux out. How does all that work? I don't know. But these are in the back are in 1/4 inch, normal headphone jack. So you're going to need something like a cable that goes from 3.5 to left, right, quarter, or I think this is
that's
just
pretty simple though. A lot of headphones come with that adapter. So.
Yeah, that's right. So and then these guys right here are individual volume control. So 4 of these guys right here. It has this little power, and you are good to go.
All right. What was that called again? Samsung something or other?
QH4. That's what it says.
QH4.
QH4.
All right.
Is it on the back? 4-channel headphone amplifier, AC adapter, caution, whatever. Only okay, whatever. So that's that. Yeah, and it's
All
pretty
right.
too. And it was dusty because I had it for a long time. I haven't used it, but it was
Cool.
so. Bobby is also unsure about his choice of speakers. He went in walls, and we suggested outdoor speaker depot. I almost said depot. I guess that's the French pronunciation. But he has 2 layers of sheetrock, so he's unsure about installation. Is the way to make in-wall speakers fit properly, and how much airspace does he need behind the in-wall speakers should he build a box? Most in-wall speakers come with these little dog ear tab thingies.
That's right. Yeah, you rotate them, and then it sort of pulls in to clamp the speaker to the drywall.
Okay, so they are flat. Like you push them, you like extend them all the way up, and then you push them in, right? So that they go flat. So you can slide the speaker up through the hole that you've cut based on their little what do you call that? The template is. So you draw the template, you cut out your drywall, however many layers it is. You push this thing in, and then you start screwing it down. When you screw it down, the dog ears come down along this thing, and they are pushed out so that they are now going to run into your sheetrock. They have little whatever tabs on them. They come down. You screw them down until they get snug with the sheetrock, and it's good. Will 2 layers work? I cannot think of a single speaker in-wall speaker that would not work with 2 layers of sheetrock. I would think.
Now,
it would be just
even
fine.
if it does, like, let's say it's got a really, for some reason, shallow depth to how far back those dog ears can go, and it's not enough to fit 2 layers of sheetrock. Let's just suppose you can still make this work because you've cut out the hole for the entire in-wall speaker through both layers of sheetrock, of course, and now you just need to remove a little bit from that back layer of drywall, just enough for the dog ear to come down,
Sure.
and then tighten to a single layer of sheetrock. I mean, you're talking about cutting out a small portion of the back layer of drywall to allow for a shallower depth for that dog ear to attach to. That's all. So this is totally doable. There's no reason why, even if for some reason the in-wall speaker isn't able to work with 2 layers of drywall right away, you still just have to cut a little bit of that back layer to make it work. So
Yeah.
totally doable.
So should you build the box? Yeah. I mean, if you can, there's no reason.
I mean,
not to.
interestingly, for Outdoor Speaker Depot, they actually kind of recommend something close to 3 cubic feet, which if you work out the math with a regular 2x4 depth, which is only 3.5 inches, right? A 2x4 is 3.5 inches deep. And that's actually like the entire 8-foot height of the thing. So they're basically like the entire bay of a normal 16-inch on-center 2x4 wall. They kind of want the entire bay back there with insulation in it, though. So when you cut the template, so you open up the wall. If there isn't insulation in there, then you want to put insulation in the bay where the speaker's going to go. But actually, for their in-wall speakers, just the regular bay that's already there, that already exists in your wall, plus making sure that that's filled with, just your regular pink stuff insulation, that's all you need, then that's about it. So if you were thinking, I need to remove the entire 2 layers of drywall, put a whole box back there, then re-drywall the whole thing, I think that was his concern.
Yeah.
Don't really need to do that. Just make sure that the entire bay behind there is filled with insulation, and that's it.
Yeah, which shouldn't be a problem, I wouldn't think.
Nah.
So, yeah, just
That's the correct size that they're looking for.
there you go. So this is really making it easy and probably negates his next question, but we'll answer it anyways. So his hesitation about installing in-wall speakers, based on the fact that he didn't think they were going to fit and he's going to build a box and everything else, let him consider some satellite speaker options instead. I don't think you need to do that, but you are, so here we go. He was thinking about the Polk Blackstone TL1 or Klipsch R14M. With the Klipsch Quintet for Atmos speakers. I don't understand that last part, but whatever.
Well, those are different speakers. The Quintets are much smaller. They're teeny tiny little satellites that would be easy to stick on a ceiling.
So all these speakers are horn loaded, right? The Polks are as well? They're horn loaded?
No.
I thought the Polks were. I clicked on all this.
They're all small and very satellite-ish, for sure.
But aren't they horn loaded? I thought they were horn
I don't think. No, those Polks. I mean, the Polks have some kind of weird, funky thing going on the tweeter there. It's kind of a waveguide-ish thing. I guess you could call that a semi.
Oh, you're right. It is semi-horn loaded. The clips definitely are.
Oh yeah, the clips are. It's clips.
So what option do we think would sound best, or could we recommend something else for about 100 to 125 a pair that we think will be the best choice? Again, I don't think you need to consider these. I think you can go with your in-wall speakers.
Yeah. And he was sort of asking like particularly which series out of that Outdoor Speaker Depot. Again, the ones I lean most towards are the MK series. They have a nice selection there. It's got the nice aluminum tweeters that are in there, the Kevlar quote unquote drivers, aramid fiber if you want to be generic. But yeah, the MK series that get the 6.5-inch drivers for the in walls, and then they have 6.5-inch in ceilings, and they have the angled in ceilings even if you want them. But I'd stick with that series myself.
Yeah. So about the small speakers. I mean, I think the clips would be fine. I don't know much about those.
Yeah, the R14s are pretty nice little speakers.
Yeah.
But
I'm kind of okay
clips,
with any
so,
of these.
You know, clips might really be to your liking. It might really not be to your liking.
These are Atmos speakers too. So how much?
Well, no, but the R14s were going to be his main 7 or 5 speakers.
Oh,
and then
okay.
It was only going to be the little quintets for Atmoses. So I mean, the R14s are a nice speaker, but it's got that clips characteristic sound. I would highly encourage you to audition them before committing to that purchase. The books, I don't think a whole lot of them. I'm not something I would be pointing you as a recommendation. My personal opinion, please don't take offense if you have them and love them. It's not what I mean. It's just not what I would recommend to you. Yeah. Since you wanted the in-walls, I'd go with the in-walls, man.
I would just stick with in-walls.
Pretty nice speakers.
Yeah. I think just go with in-walls. There's lots of little speakers that you can get that are around. If you're looking for little, you've got about $100 a pair, though, right?
$100 a pair. You know, because my
really
first
cheap.
thought was like, oh, NHT Super Zeros, but those are
$125
$125 each.
Yeah, I know. That was the first thing that came to my mind too.
Double the budget that he's looking at.
What about the EMP Techs, the small satellite ones from them? How much
They've been
are those?
discontinued.
What?
The E3s are discontinued. Yeah, I know. Those would have been a good candidate. You can still get like the white ones that they're like selling off because nobody ever bought them, but
they're white.
Yeah.
What about the focal birds, or the super little birds, tiny birds?
$100 each. Ugh. Too expensive, man. I know.
Stick with in-walls. Stick with in-walls.
I know. Yeah, I will throw it out there as one that I would perhaps recommend to someone if someone's looking for inexpensive satellite speakers. Fluence, not a bad choice at all.
Yeah.
In this case, you'd be looking at their AV series, and they actually have a nice little 5.0 package, so just 5 speakers, no subwoofer included. $200. You can't really beat it. It's 2 front-ported bookshelf speakers to use as your front, left, right, but then a horizontal center and 2 little satellite speakers that are all sealed. So in this case, since he's looking to get like 9 speakers, you get 2 of those packages, $400 total. You've got, you would end up just not using one of the centers, and then the 4 little satellite speakers, great for mounting as your Atmos speakers.
Right.
So yeah, the Fluence AV series, it's their AV5 HTB, which, kind of sounds like home theater in a box, but it's a 5.0 package. I can get behind that, but I'd still go for the in-walls in your case, because that's what you wanted in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I like Fluence. They're a good entry-level speaker.
Yeah.
Manufacturer. You kind of
free shipping too.
You're getting a lot. You're getting a lot more speaker than you're expecting to get for your money. You will realize eventually that when you upgrade, you are going to be upgrading, and because whenever you spend very little like that, your upgrade's going to be significant once you get past it. But as an entry level speaker, they're very hard to beat, and I can wholeheartedly recommend them. Jim. All right, this one right here has got me completely off kilter. So I know Rob hopefully has got this figured out, because I know I don't.
Jim and I emailed, so I think we've mostly sorted it through. But I think it's still beneficial for other listeners. So that's
because you got me all twisty turning on this thing. So Jim is the guy who's got the OLED and then like the 1080p projector. Okay,
correct.
So he wants to be able to send 4K to one and 1080p to the other, but not at the same time.
Correct.
So he still has some confusion about his receiver with a Zone 2 HDMI output to connect his 4K LG OLED, while using the main Zone HDMI output to connect to his 1080p BenQ projector. So When he turns his BenQ off his BenQ projector, and he turns on his Zone 2 to send the picture to his OLED, how can he get sound to come out of his full surround system rather than just the TV's built-in speakers?
Right. So last week we sorted through, because he was like, okay, first of all, how do I make sure that I can get a surround sound signal coming from my sources? And Jim, this is going to come up later, Jim only cares about vanilla Dolby Digital 5.1. He's like, he's not worried about lossless audio, Dolby True HD, DTS HD Master Audio, not worried about those, not worried about Atmos or DTS:X. He's like, just plain old Dolby Digital 5.1. So he's like, first of all, how do I get that out of the Zone 2 HDMI output? Because he was under the impression that Zone 2 is limited to stereo, which I fully understand. A lot of things mention Zone 2 being limited to stereo. But we sorted out last week. Yeah. This is a Zone 2 HDMI output. And it just kind of, whatever comes in via HDMI gets passed through the Zone 2 HDMI output. You could actually connect another AV receiver to the Zone 2 side, HDMI output.
And get full DTS
everything would just pass through. Yeah. So we sorted through that. He's like, okay, cool. I can get sound to my OLED's built-in speakers. That was solved. But now he's like, sometimes I want to use the OLED TV with the full surround sound system, with not the TV's built-in
Can't you just send the receiver's input to be whatever the input is that the Zone 2's using, and you get surround sound?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So he didn't realize that you could have two things potentially playing at once. You could have one source playing in the main zone and a separate source playing through that Zone 2 HDMI output at the same time. He thought it was an either-or situation. Yeah. Again, totally understandable. Yeah. He was like, in his mind, it was more like speakers A versus speakers B, right? I'm using one or the other. But the nice thing about the Zone 2 is you can have one thing playing in the main zone and a second separate thing playing in the Zone 2 or playing through the Zone 2 HDMI output. But you can also have one source playing in both zones at the same time.
That's right.
And that's the solution here. You would actually turn on the main zone, set it. So let's just say you're playing a Blu-ray, all right? So you would set it to the Blu-ray input for the main zone. You would then turn on Zone 2 HDMI and set that also to the Blu-ray input. They're both set to the same thing. Now, 5.1 Dolby Digital is coming out of your full surround sound system in the main zone. 5.1 Dolby Digital is also being passed through the Zone 2 HDMI output, so you will want to mute your TV speakers or turn their volume all the way down, because otherwise your TV speakers will also be playing the same sound as your full surround sound system, and sometimes that can sound a little weird. But yeah, that can function, and it was because a very completely understandable bit of confusion about, you can actually select one source, play it out of both zones simultaneously, and it can do that. So that works.
So then he goes on to ask, the Denon manual mentions that if a TV is connected to the Zone 2 HDMI output, all audio might be mixed down to two-channel stereo. Is that going to happen? And
those are an exact warning. It does say all audio, if both zones are set to the same source, might be down mixed to two-channel stereo only. It was like, that's not what I want. I want to be able to do surround sound. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Well, because there is, in the troubleshooting section, so you have to get all the way to the back of the manual, look at the troubleshooting section, this is an exact quote. So, quote, when the same input source is selected for main zone and Zone 2, the audio format is limited according to the specifications of the TV in Zone 2. So that's the exact scenario we've got. TV connected to the HDMI Zone 2 output.
But it can usually receive Dolby Digital, though, right?
Well, not all can, right? Not all can take Dolby Digital 5.1 as an input. But the LG OLEDs can.
There you go.
So, again, this works because he's okay with using nothing but Dolby Digital 5.1. Let's say he wanted full lossless audio or he wanted Atmos. Now, this would be a problem, right? Because if you try to send Atmos to the Zone 2 HDMI output, the TV is going to look at that and go, I have no idea what to do with an Atmos signal. Doesn't decode Atmos. And therefore, all audio, including the main zone, since both the main zone and Zone 2 are playing the same thing in this scenario, would be limited to whatever the TV can understand. So the earlier warning was there because some TVs can only accept 2-channel stereo. So that's why it said it might get down mixed to 2-channel stereo, but they make it clearer in the troubleshooting. It's limited to the specifications of the TV. So in Jim's case, it works because everything can accept Dolby Digital 5.1.
Good. Sorry, I was deleting the email. He was told on AVS forum, this is my, don't go there, look. Don't go there. That he should opt for a receiver model with mirrored HDMI outputs rather than independent main and zone 2 HDMI outputs. So can we clarify how that would work? First of all, what we're talking about already works. So if they're mirrored, won't you run into even more problems than what you're...
Well, potentially. Because this whole thing, this whole notion of connecting the LG OLED to a Zone 2 HDMI output, that whole notion came about because we've had the experience where, let's say you do what you would normally do,
Right.
which is you connect the 4K LG OLED TV to the main Zone HDMI output, your main HDMI output. And then you say, okay, now I want to turn off that TV, that 4K TV. I want to turn on my 1080p projector and play the same source I was just watching on my 4K TV. Now, let's say that source is a Chromecast Ultra or a Roku Ultra or some other thing that is capable of sending 4K video, right?
Right.
So it was just sending 4K video through your receiver to your 4K OLED TV, and that was all working fine. Then you turn off that 4K TV, you turn on your 1080p projector, and now you get a warning that says, this display is not HDCP 2.2 compatible.
Right.
And you go, well, can't you tell that my 4K TV is off and my 1080p projector is on? So yes, down convert everything to 1080p, but just give me a 1080p signal. Don't try to send 4K. I don't have a 4K display turned on right now. Well, unfortunately, we've had the experience where even though the TV's in standby, I like to say instead of standby, it's in a ready state.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of TVs do that. You press the power button, but the little red light came up, the little red LED indicator came up on the front, and now it's in like a ready state. And the sources still detect that there's a 4K television out there somewhere on the signal path, and they're like, oh, cool, send it 4K. And then it's like, oh, but there's another display here that isn't 4K, so let's just send them nothing, because clearly that's what they wanted. So that's what we're afraid of.
Yes.
Now, if everything worked the way that it should, they're actually kind of right. Because if you had the mirrored output, you turn off the 4K TV, you turn on the 1080p projector, now you could have full lossless audio going because you could send that to the main zone and then send only the video to your 1080p projector because it doesn't need audio. All of that is the way it should work. Unfortunately, it's not the way that it does work.
Part of the problem here is it's the copy protection.
It's
HDCP.
the copy protection. Yeah.
But,
you know what? If you get a HD Fury, all of this goes away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But what also is part of the problem here is that people got really irritated waiting for, lock-ons to happen. And yes, that's HDCP problem, but that's why we have this sort of ready state. Because they're trying to reduce the amount of time that it takes for your TV or display, whatever it is, to lock in to the HDMI signal and to recognize that. I mean, how many times, maybe you guys have not experienced this. I know I have, where you're switching inputs and it's like blinks, it blinks, it blinks, it blinks, it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes, and then finally it locks in. You're like, right. What is going on? I used to be able to switch inputs all the time when I had component video, and this was never an issue. But now it is, and it's because of HDCP. So what are they doing? They're trying to give you this instant preview. What does that mean? That means everything is being locked onto at all times just to make sure that you can switch as quickly as possible. Well, that's good, but at the same time, it causes problems like what we're having right now, which is I have two different displays with two different output capabilities, and my receiver is going crazy because of it.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
It is.
It's not a problem that all of us have, but it's definitely a problem some of us do. David, this comes from Facebook. So while setting up his new basement theater, David was testing his Marantz SR5011 and a Sony Blu-ray player by playing some movies with Atmos soundtracks when playing Mad Max Fury Road, it sounded great, and the display on the Marantz showed Atmos as the signal type. But when you switch to John Wick, which also has an Atmos track, it showed Dolby Digital. You switch back to Mad Max, and it showed Atmos again. So what's going on here? Please don't tell me it's one of those things where they need firmware update for the John Wick movie. Is that what it is?
I don't know. John Wick was an earlier release.
That's what I think it is. That's what I think it is. I think it's an early release, and I think that's the first thing that came to my mind was like, it is a firmware update. It's stupid, and it's just because it was a very early implementation of Atmos on a disc.
Right. So was Mad Max, but those were two of the earlier Atmos discs that came out. I was trying to remember, because I have both these, but I didn't have time to pop them in and look. Because you know how sometimes you put in the movie and the default audio track is not the Dolby True HD track. You know, it defaults to the vanilla Dolby Digital. Warner Brothers does that all the time still. So I can't remember if either of these was a Warner Brothers title. Because, I mean, my first thought was, wait a second, did I have to go, so the discs menu comes up, the one where there's something playing in the background, and it says, play and audio and special features or whatever. And you have to actually go into the discs audio setup menu and select the Atmos track.
That's another option too, yeah, for sure.
But I couldn't remember if that was the case. If I had time, I would have looked this up. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you played Mad Max, the Marantz showed Atmos on the front, everything sounded great. It's like, well, obviously your Blu-ray player and your Marantz are not like broken beyond repair. It worked. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, if it isn't just the default track and you just have to go into the discs menu and set it to Atmos, if it's not that, I'm not sure what it is. Let's hope it's that, because if it's not that, it really is a firmware thing someplace where, I mean, we just saw that with Oppo. They're like, release a firmware update so that, this disc plays better. Right.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean,
one disc?
Hey, The Dark Knight, right? The Dark Knight, big release, huge movie, big release, even had the switching aspect ratios between IMAX and 2.35 to 1, all that. It defaults to Dolby Digital.
Yeah.
You have to go into the settings menu and set it to Dolby True HD 7.1. That's not the default audio. So, it's not that. I think that might be the case.
Yeah.
Dumb.
He was also excited by the recent release of the 2017 model 70-inch Vizio E series, especially the $1,300 price point. It was planning to buy one, and then the 70-inch M series was announced this week for $2,000. His TV budget is tight, but maybe he could spend the extra for the M series if it's really worth it. So how much better is the M series over the E series? Is it worth the extra cost? Buy the 2016 M series, which is better than the 2017 M series, and maybe you can get it for $1,300. I don't know what the price is right now, but
it's about $1,600 for the 2016 70-inch M series right now.
Yeah, I would totally go for that. It's got double the zones. You get a free tablet out of it, and you're going to get
Dolby Vision,
and you're going to get all the
new software updates
anyways.
Yep. So, I mean, even though there is a difference between the 2016 and the 2017 M series, in that the 2017 M series supposedly has a little bit wider color gamut and it got a little bit brighter, it's not enough for me to spend $400 more. Yeah. The 2016 M series, good deal. I think strong argument can be made over the 2017 E series, because you're going 12 zones of local dimming to 64. That right there is enough for me to say that is worth $300.
Yeah.
So $1,600 for the 2016 M series is what I would go for.
The local dimming alone, I think, is worth it just by itself. I mean, with nothing else, it would be worth
Dolby Vision
$300
as well. That's nice. So
I know. I'm telling you, those zones of dimming are just that. For me, that's pretty much that's what I'm looking for in a flat panel display. Steve. This is the guy who's got the cable in his wall and wants to know if it will pass 4K. Steve doesn't know anyone with 4K gear he can borrow. That's what we suggested last week. So he's looking into our suggestions of open box equipment from Best Buy to test its in-wall HDMI cable for 4K HDR bandwidth. He's already going to buy an Oppo Ultra HD Blu-ray player, so he just really needs a temporary 4K display to test things out. And since we asked, the cable is a 35-foot monoprice high-speed with Ethernet 22-watt gauge cable. Does that seem like it would be likely to carry the necessary bandwidth?
For 24 frames a second.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could do the you couldn't do the full 60. That's when I looked it up, and I've been looking at it.
Probably not.
And I just
Although
don't.
maybe. Because 60 frames per second, 4K resolution, 10-bit color is like between 14 and 15 gigabits per second.
Yeah.
Is not the full 18. You don't get to the full 18 until you go to 12-bit color.
Right.
Now, people were having problems because early on, the early Ultra HD Blu-ray players, the players menu, all right, not a disc menu or anything, the players menu that comes up before anything else was being sent at 4K 60 12-bit. They're like, let's just freaking blow this out and make sure that everyone goes and buys an HDMI high-speed premium certified cable, because we're just gonna like completely like, this is the max it could be. So if you can do this, you can definitely do everything else.
For our white on black menu, we're sending 12-bit color. Thank you. We're done.
And it was pretty dumb
Drop the
because
mic.
other than Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, every other Ultra HD Blu-ray movie is 24 frames a second. Yeah. So honestly, the cable you have, it's fully high speed certified. It is fully 10.2 gigabits certified. It will pass 4K at 24 frames per second, 10-bit color all day long. You will not have a problem with that. That is all but one Ultra HD Blu-ray movies so far.
So you know what movie you have to buy along with your Oppo, though, right?
Right, yeah.
You have to buy this movie in order to test it.
But it's also like, you know, you could replace the cable at some future date if and when you ever actually do need all that extra bandwidth. Right now, you really don't.
Yeah.
You know, in practical terms, almost everything is 24 frames a second.
This does go back to the number of times we've had questions asked where people omit very important pieces of information, like, will my cable pass? And then not tell us what the cable is. So, you know, it's just remember when you're asking questions, try to give us all the info. Too much info is better than not enough. So there we go.
Sure, since you're not reading through everything to put together the topic list.
That's true. Not? Yeah, just jump it all on Rob. He loves to read. Timothy comes from Facebook here. Timothy needs a sub or subs for his open to the whole house theater. He knows that true pressurization is going to be impossible, but he'd like to get as close as he can. The budget is $3,000 max. Do we know how big this place is? Is it 100 million square feet?
Nope, I don't know the total cubic feetage.
Not enough information, dude. But since size isn't a concern, he means size of sub, he thought about an SVS PB16 Ultra, but he really cares about evenness seat to seat. So he'd rather have a pair of subs to help out with that. So is there a pair of subs with high enough output for his room for $3,000 or less? Now, first of all, evenness from seat to seat is achieved through dual subs when we can get optimal placement. In an open room concept, optimal placement is impossible or highly unlikely. Highly unlikely.
It's tougher. You got to do the whole phase adjustment thing of one.
Well, no, I'm saying that optimal placement without any of that is impossible.
Oh, I see. Right.
It's impossible.
Right.
You cannot put in one corner then the other corner and then have it be good, because you got hallways and all sorts of stuff, and it's just going to mess everything up. So unless your open concept is literally one big square or rectangular room with no hallways that are going anywhere, just by having two subs doesn't necessarily mean you're going not to get the most even base that you possibly can. That being said, if we do the thing where we are talking about phase adjustments and kind of playing around with it, which is going to take a lot more time on your part, and it's going to require you to maybe invest in a little bit more equipment if we're going to start doing measurements and stuff like that, it can help. Then again, having one big old sub that can, nearly pressurize your space, as long as you only care about one seat, can do a really good job. But he does sound like he cares about the seats, so having dual subs is something he probably wants to do. He wants to make sure he has phase adjustment. Whenever we talk about big subs that put a lot of output for a little bit of money, there's three names that always come to mind. The first one in my mind always comes as HSU. The second one is Power Sound Audio. And the third one I can't remember.
Rhythmic.
Yeah, that's it. Rhythmic. Those are the three that you are going to be looking at. So find the biggest, most outputtiest. It's something with HP at the end of their name.
Yeah.
That fits in your budget, and buy those two.
So I did want to mention, just in case, you want to stick with SVS, you don't have to go to the Ultra 16s. You could go with the Ultra 13s. They still put out a heck of a lot of bass. Now, dual cylinder PC 13 Ultras, brand new, $3,200, $200 over your $3,000 budget, but they have their outlet store too.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting it out there that SVS isn't completely out of the question for dual subwoofers.
And those PC-13s will crush.
Oh, PC-13 Ultras can put out a lot of sound pressure, and they have the whole SVS thing, which is turn them up as loud as you please. They will not bottom out. They will not break themselves. So it's still an option. But this situation, I would probably point you towards Rhythmic's FV15 HPs. They've actually lowered the price, and they're doing free shipping within the continental United States now. But assuming that all works for you, $1,338, a very specific price.
38, huh? Must spend a little bit extra on the finish, I suppose.
But that's that's each. So yeah, I mean, two of those under $3,000, entirely doable. Those are huge. They are huge boxes. Please, even though you said size isn't a problem, you gotta build a cardboard box.
Do it, dude.
Because there's every possibility to be like, you know what, cylinder is not a bad idea. It takes up a lot less floor space. But yeah, the FV15 HPs, really nice choice here. And then, of course, HSU, fantastic value on their VTF 15 MK2s. All right. You can get the dual system, $1,750 plus a whole bunch of shipping. So there's like an extra $300 of shipping. But basically, about $2,100 for a pair of VTF 15H Mark IIs from HSU. Well under your budget, huge output, definitely a contender there. And Power Sound Audio, you could get a pair of their 18-inch vented ones if you wanted to.
That's a big old sub. It's $1,400.
$1,400, free shipping though within the continental United States. So again, pair of them under $3,000. Of course, you can get the ported 15 inches as well for considerably less money than that.
Or you can buy the V3601, which is two 18-inch drivers on top of each other with a slotted port that basically says, "I will crush your whole house. I will break it down. I will burn it. I will burn you and everyone with you."
You can get a pair of those. So
you couldn't get a pair. You'd only get one. But $2,200, you would only need one.
But yeah, there are plenty of options. Any of those I could totally get behind. The HSU and Power Sound Audio are the least expensive if you're going for the 15-inch options. Those Rhythmics I could easily get behind, and PC-13 Ultras not out of the question.
I was making fun of Rhythmic, but they also have even for if you want to go like $100 over your budget, you could get piano black, gloss finish on these to make them look nicer than they currently look. I mean, they're just going to be a big box anyways. Build a box.
Yes.
Build a box. And even for the cylinders, build a box. Because even though they're cylinders, you want to know how tall they are. You want to know how wide they are. Just make it a box. Don't try to make it round because it's going to take up all that space anyways. So build a box. So he says if he gets a new AV receiver with Odyssey Platinum, would it also be worth it to buy a separate subwoofer DSP, such as the anti-mode? Will Odyssey handle things just as well, or is there a less expensive alternative to the anti-mode that is still automatic? I wouldn't bother with anything else. If I was going to do anything else, I would do the mini DSP, or mini DSP,
yep,
is that it?
Mini DSP, because Mini DSP by itself, unless you get the Dirac version, that's a lot more money. So he's saying, is they're less expensive than the anti-mode. So just the regular Mini DSP, if you connect it to Room EQ Wizard can generate basically the EQs that will get loaded onto that Mini DSP. It can generate those automatically.
Right.
Room EQ. It's more user effort certainly than just running Odyssey though, because you have to take your measurements. If you want to do multiple measurements, you have to average them yourself. Then Room EQ Wizard can auto-generate the correction file. Then you load that onto the Mini DSP, and you put the Mini DSP into your system.
I just stick with Odyssey, man. Why are we going through all this?
Well, that's just it. I honestly, especially if you get one of the newer ones that can use that new Odyssey app.
Yeah.
So even if you don't like Odyssey's default settings, now you can manually change the target curve using that $20 app. So I would say get one of the newest Denon or Marantz receivers, one that can use that Odyssey app, spend the $20, get the app, and I'd say you're good to go.
I agree with that 100%. I
Yeah.
don't see any reason to spend any more money on this stuff
Nope.
if you don't want to. Brain, the vampire. I don't know how we got that name. I don't remember doing it. Anyways, Brain decided to go with Martin Logan ESLX speakers.
That budget is out the window.
Out
He
the
said
window.
It was out the window.
Didn't we
It
start
is
with
out the
like
window.
bookshelf speakers, something small in walls?
Oh no, it was in ceilings.
In
All in
ceilings.
ceiling. 5 in ceilings in a 14-foot high ceiling. And we were like, no.
Brain, I don't know how we
no.
did this to you, but could we do it to me? Could we do this to me somehow? Could we make it so that we start with, honey, let's get ourselves a bicycle and then end up buying new Ferraris?
Well,
Because
it
I feel like that's
helps-
where we went.
It helps that it was his wife who thought they looked cool and sounded really good. So that is a big help.
That is a help. Anyways, they'll cost an extra $1,500 over the regular ESLs, but since he plans on keeping them for at least the next 10 years or so, the extra cost seems worth it. I can't argue with your logic.
I cannot argue in the room size that you got. I was saying, if you can afford it, I would like
We
to
were
lean that way. It's
agonizing
like,
over that last week.
I know.
We were both like,
he's like, okay, he's going for it.
right.
You will not be disappointed by that choice.
no, you will be fine. So concerning power protection for them, what do we recommend? That Martin Logan FAQ, or FAQ, offers the helpful suggestion to unplug the speakers during thunderstorms, but that doesn't seem like the best option to him. They almost certainly have fuses in them, by the way. So if there's something in there that can break, that...
Honestly, if you do know a thunderstorm is coming, it is still the best. It is still
Yeah.
the safest thing
Yeah.
is to physically unplug them from the wall. So
Yeah.
I do not disagree with that advice.
So would something like a surge protector from APC be a good idea?
Mhm.
Yeah, it'd be just fine. Just, yes.
Yeah, and
is
I
good.
would suggest to you the P8V. It's not too expensive. I think they go for about $60 or not even that much on Amazon. It is just a surge protector. It is also a noise filter, so if you do happen to have any radio frequency interference or something coming over your lines, it will filter that down. But what I like about that one, it's way more outlets than you need, but it allows the full 15 amps through.
Right.
A lot of surge protectors only allow 12 or sometimes even 10 amps from your standard wall outlet, which is a 15 amp. A lot of them do choke down that current. The P8V does not. The full 15 amps get through there, so I like that model. It's also, it's a fairly sleek looking unit, so it doesn't look terrible when you have it in place.
Right. So he asked, what about the rest of his AV equipment? What would we suggest for protecting his AV receiver, amplifier, and sources? Usually we recommend the APC J series.
Uh-huh.
The J series is battery backup.
Yeah.
Rob has it. We've talked about it a number of times. I think Gene has it, Audioholics too. You can like run
Well,
your
he has the S series.
Oh,
he went for the flagship.
the flagship run, right? So the J series is the one that's a little bit more economical.
The one you should get.
Yeah.
it's affordable. Well, relatively affordable,
Relatively, right.
but a really nice feature set. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would suggest the J35. So there's a J35 and a J25. The difference between the two is the J35 has voltage regulation and a larger battery. The J25 has a smaller battery and no voltage regulation. Both of them give you a couple of outlets that are not attached to the battery, but they still offer surge protection and they let the full 15 amps through. So those are the outlets you would want to use for your AV receiver, for your amplifier. You don't need those connected to the battery, and you want the full current to be able to get through. So use those outlets for those. They're labeled high output, and they're labeled surge only. So use those for those. For your sources, though, it's so nice to have battery backup. Your cable box can keep recording when the power goes out. Your video game system, you don't lose your progress in a game the instant the power goes out. You have a chance to save and shut things down properly. So love having battery backup for your sources.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the back of this thing. I'm looking at it right now. There's only,
8 outlets.
8 outlets. Is that right?
Yep.
8? Yeah.
That's enough for most systems.
So he asked lastly, what's the difference between power filters and power conditioners, and does he need one? So a power filter filters out any sort of noise that would be in your power line. And that can happen. If you remember back in the day, every time your mom would vacuum, your CRT would go crazy.
That's electromagnetic interference.
And that's something that you don't want to experience in your home theater. So that's what it protects from. A power conditioner, it should do the power filtering as well, but it also regulates the power so that your power does. If it's dipping, it boosts it up so that it maintains a constant voltage. And if it's spiking, it does the same thing, brings it down a little bit so that it's maintaining this constant voltage throughout. So you're not seeing any big fluctuations in your power to your devices.
Yep. That's about it.
That's it. That's what it is. Infinite Gary. Gary's decided it would be fun to try adding surround backs to his 5.1.4 system, making a 7.1.4, but since his room is only 13 feet by 14 feet, there are some potential issues. Because of the short distance from the seat to the back wall, he'll need to move the surrounds forward to give them enough distance from the new surround backs, but this would put the surrounds a little bit forward of the seat, which won't be correct placement. Is this likely to sound better than his current 5.1.4 setup? Are you suggesting that putting the speakers where they're not supposed to be is going to sound better than where they're supposed to be because you're going to put speakers right behind your head? The answer to that question is no. It's going to make it sound weirder and worse, I think. You need to keep your surrounds where they are. If you do decide to use surround backs, I would place them more the way that THX recommends rather than Atmos and Dolby and everybody else these days seems to, which would put them close together right behind your seat so they're basically like almost earmuffs, and then you're going to turn them super low. They're going to be like super low because you don't want much sound coming out of them at all. And your AV receiver, if you're using one, should do that for you. Should hopefully be able to turn them low enough. If you look after you run your auto room correction or your auto setup, if it has a -12 to those two things, they are still too close and you need to move your seat forward. When you move your seat forward, move your surrounds forward, move everything forward. And yes, you'll have to readjust all the rest of your speakers as well. But honestly, dude, your room is way too small for surround backs. Just there's no, as someone who's had surround backs in a small room, in a room this size, my room was open to the sides to other parts of the house, so there was that. I thought my surround backs would make a difference. My surround backs made things sound worse. I turned them off.
Right.
I did. I turned them off.
Yeah.
So.
No, I completely. I mean, obviously, we understand the whole. Hey, I saw a soundtrack. It says 7.1.
Yes.
And I have a 5.1 system. Maybe I'd like to have a 7.1 system, right? So I can hear the full 7.1 soundtrack. It's important to understand that when you listen to a 7.1, so Dolby True HD or DTS HD Master Audio 7.1, when you play that back on a 5.1 system, you do not lose any sound.
Yeah.
The sound that is in the surround back channels, it gets distributed to your physical surround speakers when you have things set up as 5.1. It's not like those sounds disappear. It's not like they even come from the wrong place. Things are distributed, down mixed, matrixed nicely into the speakers that you do have. And I do agree, if you're setting up a 5.1 system, I would probably not have my surround speakers 90 degrees to my sides, right? I would have them a little bit behind me, which is totally what Dolby recommends, right? Dolby says somewhere between 90 and 120 degrees to your sides.
Right.
So a little ways behind you. That makes sure that the sounds that were mixed into the surround back channels do sound like they're coming from behind you, not directly to either side. But it still works. You don't lose any sound that way. So that's not to be worried about.
So right now he's using Revel front speakers and Dynaudio surrounds. He's considering getting 4 Revels M105s to better match his front speakers and to have Revels for all 7 listener level speakers. And he's just experimenting with these back speakers, so... Yeah. Okay, so what do we consider to be the biggest benefit of having a perfect timbre match all around? I honestly don't think there's much of a benefit, but Rob will tell you that if you're going to be neurotic about it, which, honestly, Gary, you're going to be neurotic about it, so... And that's okay, because the Rob is too. As there's these pans... from in the very rare occasion where something pans directly all the way around your theater or maybe all down one side of your theater, the timbre match is more perfect. I'm not going to say perfect because it's not.
No, yeah, it's never 100% perfect.
It's never 100% perfect because the speakers are in physically different locations and there's different interactions with the surfaces that are around, and there's all sorts of other things that go along with it. What does this mean? That means that it will sound a little bit more perfectly matched than it would. Would it be an absolute perfect match? No. But it will be more. Is that enough for me? No, it's not. I don't care. I don't care that much. I'm fine with it not being perfectly timbre matched. I've never once thought, as something panned around, that it didn't sound, well, that didn't sound perfectly timbre matched to me. But I'm not Rob, and I'm not you, so maybe you will think that. I still don't think you need surround back speakers, though.
It's rarely used in movies anyway. But yeah, on that rare occasion where, okay, in real life, if you were sitting stationary and a car drove in a circle around you,
right,
all right, that's the sound of that car. All your speakers are perfectly timbre matched, recreates that experience pretty darn well. You're like, yeah, that is one car driving in a circle around me. On the rare occasions that's used, cool, yay, all right. It didn't sound like a slightly different car as it moved from speaker to speaker. It makes the experience of this, dome or hemisphere of sound around you possibly more convincing in those instances when it's used, but it's rarely used. It's not something I'm gonna even advocate for most people, but it's like, hey, if it happens, cool. That's my feeling on it. It's like, all right, yay. It's one homogeneous sound around you.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you've ever heard a car drive around you before, but depending on how your ears are positioned and how you're turning and what's going on with the ground.
And yeah, what else is around you?
It changes sound as it goes around you anyway, so it sounds perfectly natural for it to change sound as it goes through speakers,
and
but
your brain
as
is
you wish.
Pretty darn good of if you see the image of the thing and then it goes off screen and it goes through your speakers around you, like your brain's pretty good at going, all right, that's supposed to be the same object, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, your brain does a pretty good job of filling that in. So
he says in most movies with the 7.1 soundtrack are the surrounds and surround backs playing at the same time. Yes. Or are they often separate and distinct? Not as
rarely.
Often. Yeah, no. Do we know of any specific scenes or movies where the surround back channels are very obvious and separate from the surround channels?
X-Men.
Spider-Man 2? The Doc Ock scene, maybe?
Yup.
I would think that would be one, though I can't actively tell you that. There is definitely music in Porcupine Trees is a dead wing, dead bird, dead something. There's
can't remember which one of the newest Planet of the Apes movies. Can't remember if it was Rise or the Dawn.
I mentioned it on the podcast about 2 months ago. There was some horror movie I watched that wasn't all that great, but had distinct surround sound aspects of it on Netflix. It was something about a girl she was a first time on the job cop, and they had her at the old station where they were moving everybody to a new station. Somebody in the comments find the name of that movie. And she was there, and then she would call because weird things were happening, and there was some family that had all been killed. I don't know. It was ghosts.
But most of the time, your surround and surround back channels are playing ambience.
Yep. Music.
So most of the time, most of the time it's kind of diffuse background. You're not really supposed to have your attention drawn to it.
No.
Types of sounds. That's most of the time.
Which X-Men movie were you talking about?
The first one, because you got the voices that distinctly go around you.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
Professor X's voice.
Yeah. Jason. We gave Jason some suggestions for headphones, including Sennheisers, Sony's, and Audio-Technicas. So I'm not going to give you the things. Anyways, a friend of Jason's raves about the Bose Quiet Comfort 35 headphones. Jason doesn't really like Bose in general. He's only saying that for our benefit, but that's okay, Jason. You can still like Bose. But he doesn't want to dismiss them out of hand. What are our thoughts? Okay, the Quiet Comfort 35s are Bluetooth noise-canceling headphones. You do not have to use them in the Bluetooth configuration. You can plug them in, which is not always the case with Bose headphones.
Right. And you can use them without the batteries in them. They will still make sound, which not all do.
Yeah. So what do I think? I think you never said anything about wanting noise-canceling headphones. I'll remember that.
Active noise canceling, by the way.
And active noise canceling means, and if you don't understand how this works, is they measure the outside noise and they create an opposite wave going into your ear.
Right.
Just like we have noise canceling in our room as the sound bounces around and the peak hits a trough and they balance out to zero. That's what we're going for here. So does that mean it's actually playing sound into your ear that is canceling out the rest of the sound, so you hear, quote, silence, but there is still pressure on your eardrum as it's happening.
Yeah. It is 180 degrees out of phase with the actual noise.
Some people find this very disconcerting and very uncomfortable.
It makes you feel like your ears need to pop.
You never said you wanted anything that had to do with noise canceling. So
Right.
all of the reports of how these things sound say they sound pretty good for Bluetooth headphones, and the noise canceling is excellent.
Right.
So if what you care about is noise canceling, then these would be a good choice. If what you care about is sound quality, everything else we recommend is better than this.
Yeah, if you care about blocking noise from the outside world, the Sennheiser HD598s are a terrible choice.
Yeah.
Because they are a completely open back headphone. You can hear it's ever so slightly quieter with them on versus off, but you can hear everything that's going on around you. They are terrible at blocking noise out. Meanwhile, the Sony MDR 7506 is quite good at blocking sound out there. A sealed design, they clamp fairly tightly to your head. They block out quite a lot of sound, but just, passively.
Yeah, same thing with Audio-Technica ATH-M 50Xs. They're a sealed design, and they will clamp very tightly. It depends on which model you get. Yeah. But they will clamp on, and they will block sound. It's passive. It's just the same thing as putting your hands over your ears and going, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, the Bose have legitimately good active noise canceling. If you are always on flights, always on a train, always on transit, and you have that droning sound and you want to cancel that out, they do that very well. As far as headphones, they're fine. I don't think they're offensive sounding or anything like that. I don't think they're great either. But they're active noise canceling, legitimately good. So there's absolutely reasons to buy them. But yeah, there you go.
I have accidentally pressed back. Now I'm waiting for it to reload. Hold on. This is happening.
We are coming on to Tom K.
I know. But right now I'm waiting for my computer to reload this page, which is having a hard time considering all the other stuff that's going on, and it's just a laptop. One of these days, I swear, I'm going to build myself like the biggest, baddest,
Hey, you can play Ultra HD Blu-rays if you build it.
And then
gotta get that gaming motherboard for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. Well, one of these days I'll play games again too. I don't know when that's going to happen. All right, here. Are we scrolling? If I press this, will you scroll? Will you scroll, please? Please, 8 of 15, 9 of 15, 10 of 15. There we go. I just scrolled past Jonathan's questions, so we're there. All right, here. Tom K.
I so could have jumped in, but I want to see how this plays out.
Tom has a 2.1 system with the Emotiva Bassax, A100 amplifier Bassax, S8 sub. He's having trouble getting the volume of the sub not to be too loud, even when this volume knob of the sub is turned way down. He's feeding them via the RCA pass-through output of the A100. Could he put something in line to attenuate the signal, or do we have any other solutions? So that
A100...
Yeah, go on.
That A100 is being fed by some source. It's just an amplifier.
Yeah.
So split the output, whatever is feeding that A100 amplifier. I'm assuming it's some sort of preamp, or maybe it's just coming directly from his computer or whatnot, because I remember this was like a desktop setup.
Yeah.
But whatever cables are going from your source or your preamp into the A100, just split them. Put a Y-splitter on them. Send one of them to the A100, send the other to the S8 subwoofer. Because you want the pre-out signal being fed to the S8. Not the amplifier signal being fed to the S800. That's my solution. And then you'll get volume control back for the S8 for the S8 for the subwoofer.
That's right.
Whatever you're using to control the volume, be it the source directly or be it a preamp, now that you are just splitting the pre-out signal, it'll work.
Yeah.
So that's my solution. Y-splitters.
You got the subwoofer too far down the line.
Yeah.
Back up a little bit.
Yeah, it shouldn't come after your amplifier or audio amplifier in the signal chain. It should be split. The audio amplifier should get the same signal as the subwoofer.
Dreamer 25 2002. I guess this is a Twitter handle.
All I had to go by. That's right.
All right. Anyways, this person, male or female, we don't know, has a JVC X95 projector along with the RF 3D emitter and the PKAG3 3D glasses. The screen is the Screen Innovations Black Diamond, which preserves the polarized light that comes out of the JVC.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that renders most third-party 3D glasses useless. The Expand D105 glasses mentioned working with polarization, but only works if you turn your head 90 degrees.
That's a heck of a way to watch a 3D movie.
How do you, which direction 90? Like this? You gotta look at it with your eye?
Like lying down on your side.
Oh, like this?
Yeah.
You gotta lie down on your side?
The light coming out of the JVC, I forget whether it's horizontally polarized or vertically polarized, but let's just say it's vertically polarized. Well, the glasses are horizontally polarized. So you have to turn yourself.
You could buy two glasses, mount them onto your eyes sideways. Some sort of contraption. That's stupid. So do we know of any less expensive 3D glasses that will work? And failing that, do we know of any way to get the JVC PKAG3 glasses for a lower price, perhaps refurbished or used? So I went and I did just a general search for the PK glasses on Amazon and every place else. They're anywhere between $179 to $189 a pop.
Yup. So you can see why you would like a lower price if you want some more.
There is a seller on Amazon, and it comes up as the Victor PKAG3 3D glasses for like $129. Now, is that considerably cheaper? Yes. Is it cheap enough? Probably not. My cursory research into this, because I was like, I don't know, dude, this sounds sketchy. This is a straight from China, straight from Japan reseller, which means you ain't getting them anytime soon. So if you order them now, you best be ready to wait. Now, I did this exact same thing on Amazon. I found somebody who was selling like workout shirts for a fraction of the cost. They were like $6. You know, it's like $20 at Target for one of these shirts. $6 from this reseller. And everything I read was like, got the shirts. They were a little smaller than I expected them to be. Got the shirts. Took 2 months longer than I expected it to take. So I ordered them in like February and got them in like June. And I was fully expecting them to be late. And I ordered them a little bit bigger than my normal size. And I was perfectly happy. To me, that's what you're getting yourself into if you go this route. That you're just buying. It's not quite a knockoff. It's basically probably coming from the same factory as all the rest of them. Somebody's just sort of spiriting some out, and then they're selling them for a little bit cheaper to you.
Right. Now, as far as getting used, there have got to be some people out there who there are lots of people who have JVC projectors.
I have seen
like got to be some
forum
who are
posts
like, I'm just
where people are selling
done
them.
with 3D.
You can just create a Google alert that says selling glasses, whatever they are, and every time a new post comes up in the forum or someplace, it will alert you, and that's another way to do it.
The AVS forum classifieds, good place because lots of people on AVS forum bought JVC projectors.
Yeah.
So the AVS forum classifieds, Audio Gone, also a good place to check. So outside of eBay and Craigslist, which could be very, very, potentially not what you're actually looking for, Audio Gone, AVS forum classifieds, good places to check for this. Outside of that, again, we don't know how to pronounce this stupid company's name. Expand-D, whatever it is. Letter X, PAND Vision. All right, that's the thing. So Expand, they do potentially take those glasses that you have, the ones that you have to turn 90 degrees. They were at least at one point making specialized glasses to work with the JVC projectors because they were essentially taking the lenses of these, turning them 90 degrees, making them the right shape to fit into the frame of the glasses and doing it that way. Because it's like they already had the lenses, they just needed to turn them 90 degrees and make them the correct shape.
That's the same company, though, that he was already talking about, right?
Well, that's just it. It's just they don't sell one normally that you can just order off the page, but if you contact them directly and say, I have one of these JVC projectors, I need these glasses that'll work with it. At one point, they were doing special orders for them. I don't know if they still are, and I don't know the price.
Anything on their website about it. I
No,
looked.
it's not. It was
Yeah.
a special order thing. You had to contact them directly and special order them. There was such a thing. I don't know if they're still doing it. I don't know the price if they are. But mostly, I would check AVS Forum Classifieds and I would check AudioGone because somebody's selling some. They've got to be.
Yeah, that Google Alerts is your friend in this case.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe Craigslist and don't be afraid to go to these forums and post a wanted ad too.
Yeah.
All right, last one. We've got Manchester United Trooper, Trooper on Twitter. So
That's right.
it's got to be Manchester United. I mean, what else would
It
it
is.
be?
It's Manchester United. Yeah.
Anyways, she spotted an article in Time magazine recommending 5 different waterproof speakers to use poolside or at a beach. He liked our thoughts and suggestions for portable outdoor use speakers. Okay, so for portable outdoor use speakers, it depends what you mean by portable, and it depends what you mean by outdoor use. My go-to speaker for outdoor use is whatever wireless tools you have, that manufacturer's boombox.
Like Black & Decker or something like that.
Rigid, Ryobi, whatever. They all make them. They all have them. They let you charge they either run on the batteries or they'll charge the batteries. They all have USB ports now and Bluetooth capabilities, and you can drop them off the back of your truck. It's no big deal. None of them, or very few of, I don't think there's any that I could find that were waterproof. Many of them had like covers over parts of, over the inputs, to keep dust and stuff out. Many of them did not have like keys. They had everything had the covers on it to keep it from getting dust in it, but they weren't really waterproof. So if you're thinking of going to the beach and taking a speaker with you, which by the way, don't do that. Don't do that.
Obnoxious.
No one likes that guy. But maybe it's for listening to the Manchester United game, in which case you'd be like the bell of the ball. I like Braven. I like the Braven speakers. I've tested quite a few of them. If you see the video of the Braven speaker that the speaker that we reviewed for Audioholics many moons ago with Andrew Gash. That's me throwing the speaker at him over and over again and him dropping it and stuff like that. And that speaker still works. I use that. My parents use that. They have it hooked up to Alexa. So,
and there is a Braven on Time's list there. So.
There is. And there's, in fact,
confirmation.
If you go look, okay, first of all, let me tell you something about these lists. All right. It's a little insider perspective. You get contacted all the time saying, are you interested in put together a list of outdoor speakers because blah blah blah, and then they'll send you the speaker, and then you write a little blurb like they do, and you notice none of these are really negative. They're all sort of kind of okay, right? And then you get to keep the speaker. All right, that's how it works. It's not like a payoff. It's just it's not worth it to them to ship the speaker back. They're sending it to all these people. They're just looking for some press. And I mean, you literally don't care because in the end, you end up with way more speakers than you have anything to do with. And you give them away as Christmas presents. This happens all the time. So these aren't reviews. There was one I found that the Time one wasn't. There's one I found that sounded more review-y, where the guy was actually dropping stuff off and doing some tests. But in the end, it was all sort of like, yeah, this one's pretty good, this one's pretty good, and this one's more expensive, so we like this one the best. And there was a little bit of ranking going on there, but no one really cares. They just want you to. They just want press. That's all they want. So they're sending out these speakers, and it happens constantly. Even now, I get are you going to do a Father's Day list on AVRant? I'm like, nope, because I don't want to talk about your crap. And are you interested in these new headphones that we have coming out? We have 17 different models from 5 different manufacturers. We'll send them all to you. Nope, I don't want to listen to your crappy headphones either. So that's how these articles get built. So don't look at them as reviews. They are like,
oh no, it's not a review. And I mean, it is just a list of here's 5 waterproof speakers.
So you still have to do your research. Don't look at this and say they talk about this one, therefore it must be a good one. It's not. It's just one. So
Braven, they are aware.
Braven has a whole bunch of them out there. So go out there and listen to them and pick the one that you like.
Yeah. So for my tastes, now this one's not waterproof, so I don't know if waterproof is a big deal. But the one that I like, $100, G Project G Boom, really nice for tailgating. Gets loud, has a nice, pretty decent life battery, about 6 hours on that battery. lithium-ion battery. Pretty darn good sound, especially for $100. A sturdy little thing that you can, it's got a nice built-in handle. So yeah, but not waterproof. But that is one of my favorite outdoor speakers. For the ones that like are genuinely like I'm lounging in the pool and I have one of those little like cylinder type of speakers and I could literally put it in the pool and have it float beside me type of things. The JBL Charge ones are the ones I like out of those. You're not going to get fantastic sound, but they're surprisingly pretty decent. Nice form factor, very waterproof. So yeah, the JBL Charge ones are my sort of favorite out of that time list. Those are ones that I would look at if this is a genuine going in the pool speaker.
Mm-hmm. I will say that if you're interested in like the speaker manufacturers, the speakers from the tool manufacturers, ProToolReviews.com did a roundup of them where they actually did some crazy tests. Like I saw a picture where they threw it off the top of a house or something, but I also know that they threw it out of the back of a moving truck of one of them. Like they were driving the truck and they just tossed it out the back to see how it would survive. And they do test sound quality. They do make comments on sound quality, and it's not from an uneducated point of view. You can tell that by a number of things, but not only because I know the guy who runs the place and he actually cares. But that Pro Tool Reviews would be that there's a roundup review that you should look at for that. And there are some that are definitely heads and tails above the rest. So that's our questions for this week. We want to go back and where are you getting these titles from?
From stuff you say.
I say that? I thought last week I was like, I had no idea where you got it from. This one's even worse. All right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank Christian and Michael for going to www.avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sending us a donation. Thank you, Christian and Michael. We'll use that money for hosting fees and such.
Yeah, Christian, Michael, thank you both so much for those donations. It's very much appreciated.
And David and Justin Not Bieber, please thank you guys for talking us up to the manufacturers. David for Accessories for Less, and Justin for Emotiva.
Yeah, David, Justin, thank you both, and congrats on your purchases.
If you want your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Go to www.avrant.com. Leave a comment there. Facebook.com/avrantpodcast. YouTube is youtube.com/c/avrant. If you want to contact us directly, Rob is rob@avrant.com and @firstreflect for his Twitter handle. Mine is tom@avrant.com and @avrant_tom for Twitter. Our producer is Austin. Austin does all our videos and helps with the questions. You can contact him at Austin TN Austin has his own podcast, the We Watch Movies podcast about the size and shape of vitamins and it relates to how their swallowability index.
That's an official thing, huh? The swallowability
index.
That's right. That needs to go on whatchamacallit? Urban Dictionary.
Swallowability index?
It's been too long.
God help us if anybody tries to define that on Urban Dictionary. Nothing about vitamins will make it onto that list.
That's what it is, though. Vitamin pills, swallowability index.
We Watch Movies.
Make sure you link back to We Watch Movies. I'm sure they will appreciate the Urban Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary entry
for swallowability
index.
They're like, why does this go to We Watch Movies?
I can't believe people even ask that. It's such a clear connection.
Do we have a new title for this episode?
Hey, we are going to get some listeners who are going to be very confused and upset if they listen to the Swallowability Index podcast and they hear these two yahoos talking about audio. They want to hear the We Watch Movie guys and gal. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Anybody can stay to the end of that one. Missed